Breaking news just in, the visa of Novak Djokovic has been cancelled by Australian Border Force.
Now this of course follows hours of toing and froing, but we now expect that visa cancellation will actually be challenged. That's what we're hearing in a Victorian court at some stage today, you would think.
Yeah, and there's no word on what will happen to Novak Djokovic in the meantime. No,
well, we assume that he has to stay at the airport. We assume, like any other person, that he can't be let out into the community without a visa. But this is a mess. We've heard that the Victorian government say that the federal government was requesting them to support him in. The federal government said, no, that's not the case at all. And now we're left in this situation where his visa has now been cancelled. I don't see a way out for this. This is going to the court. This is a massive embarrassment, not only to Australia, but to the Australian Open. How it can recover. What is the outcome? He stays. We already know that the Australian public, particularly the Victorian community, do not overwhelmingly want him here, or he goes back home, goes back to Serbia. Where does that leave the Australian Open?
And you know what everyone's going to be asking? How did we let it get to this stage? Why did it get to this stage? How was there not intervention taken before reaching this?
Well, we knew he was on the plane to come.
We knew he was coming, exactly.
It's the world #1. He's going to want to play. So this had to be one of the scenarios that was war gamed before this all started. And now we have his father calling for people to take the streets. It's just gone 10 o'clock.
And the president tweeting out.
Yeah, in Belgrade. So more to come in Belgrade, Canberra and Melbourne. We'll bring it to you as well.
Well, that decision to initially grant him an exemption being met with so much backlash, as we know, and among that frustration.
Yeah,
really.
Two-time Australian Open quarter-finalist Tennis Sangren, who pulled out of this year's Grand Slam due to the vaccine mandate, joins us now from Nashville in the United States. Tennis, we really appreciate your time. Your reaction to this latest news that visa has been cancelled?
Wow, that's wild. That's wild. Yeah, they came out with this exemption protocol maybe 3 weeks ago, and it seemed like he cleared both the hurdles with the two doctors panels. And so I guess that's why he got on the plane, and then for this all that happened and take place is pretty astonishing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think your thoughts echo the rest of the population, really. I mean, in tennis, we'll get to your situation in a moment, but Novak is right now waiting at Melbourne Airport. I mean, what do you think this looks like on a national and international scale?
Not great. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's sport. And so he's come to play tennis, and there's obviously one of the biggest tennis tournaments in the world in Melbourne every year. And so for this to take place and for somebody to be stuck at the airport is, it's never fun. I mean, as tennis players, we're used to all this travel and tough travel situations, but this is something else entirely.
Can you take us through your situation and the decision that you made not to come to compete at the Australian Open?
Yeah, I just have a stance against vaccine mandates personally, and I think if you want to get it and you want to go for that, that's perfectly fine and perfectly reasonable. And if you don't, then I don't think you should be forced to. And so that's where I'm at. And in the United States and in Tennessee, I can live a normal life without having to do that. And we'll see what happens in the international community in relation to that. I'm not sure where that puts me with my career at this point, but with Open where it's at and where you guys are at as a country. Even with this medical exemption protocol, I just didn't fit any of the things that could possibly get me that. So, which is all good. I see where you guys are at, and so that's, there was no reason for me even to apply for something like that.
And given the stance that you've taken, Tennis, does it hurt even further when you think about Novak and what he's done to try and come out here? Should he ever have been allowed to come, do you think?
I don't. At the end of the day, I'm not sure if that's for me to even weigh in on. This is the fact that it was an avenue that was made available to him, and he, applied just as anybody else would apply for a medical exemption that was in a boat that he was in. And apparently it was with anonymity as well, where there's no names attached, and two different doctors panels review those records, and they make their decision. And then for there to be also now a third decision and now a cancellation of the visa, I don't know if that's because of a clerical error or that's because of the third examination didn't meet the standard of the government. I think everybody's kind of asking that question: is what's going on exactly? What are the reasons, and what is the holdup at this point?
Can you give us an idea of what the mood is like on the tour with these exemptions being sought and the mandates being put in place? Have you spoken to other players who, like you, are withdrawing from tournaments, and where you think this goes into the future?
Well, this is all very new to actually play an event and a massive event in a country that has a vaccine mandate. This is a first-time experience. So there was a big push for everybody to get vaccinated so they could go down and play the first Grand Slam of the year, which everybody loves to come and play. And so I think everybody, for the most part, has gone for that, whether reluctantly or not. I think people have gone for that. And this is kind of the first situation where we're running into exemptions and, not getting let into the country. And it just happened to be the #1 player in the world in this situation now. And it's all new and it's all wild. And I think we'll see more of this year, honestly, because France and England, when the French Open and Wimbledon roll around, they might be in a similar boat as far as requiring a vaccine to get in to be able to play. And, who knows, really.
I mean, this has escalated so dramatically. We're hearing now that it could end up in court, but it's very unlikely that a visa cancellation will get overturned in a Victorian court. I mean, if he does, by some miracle, make it to the court, Tennis, how do you think the public will respond?
Mixed bag, I guess. I'm sure there will be people that are upset that that there was even an exemption in place, and I can see why, because maybe that's not available to everybody, this sort of exempt status. But I know some people will be happy to see him play because he's one of the best ever to pick up a racket, and so it's always a pleasure to watch him. So I'm sure it'll be a mixed bag. And a lot of emotions for everybody involved, really. Him and the crowd and other players and competitors. I mean, it's all eyes. The international community is all eyes on this event right now.
Hey, Tennis, we've asked you to be an expert on Australian immigration law and a whole lot of other things this morning. We really appreciate your time and the insight you provided. Thank you for that.
Thank you, guys.
Breaking news, the Australian Border Force have cancelled the visa of Novak Djokovic after holding him at detention at the Melbourne Airport for more than 8 hours. Today, reporter Isabella Stashkovsky is there. Isa, Novak Djokovic is expected to challenge the decision.
Chris, good morning. It's understood that that decision will be challenged in the Victorian courts, but essentially Novak Djokovic has been told to leave the country today. It is understood his coach and support staff have been processed, but they are choosing to still remain at the airport. It's also possible that the world #1 could be taken to a city hotel shortly while this is all being played out. We've also heard from the Serbian president this morning. We'll bring up what he said right there, but essentially he said that he has spoken to Novak Djokovic and that Serbia will stand behind the world #1 and fight for him. Also infighting between the state government and the federal government as this drama continues. But an incredible situation, developing news that the whole world is watching this morning. Chris?
Certainly an extraordinary situation, and we will stay across it through the day. Isabella, thank you. Australians now only need a rapid test result to confirm if they're infected with COVID. PCR testing is no longer needed to confirm infection, with rapid tests to be boosted at testing sites. Coles has imposed temporary purchasing limits of 2 packs per customer on mince, some chicken products and sausages. The measures apply to in-store and online purchases. From today, Queenslanders will be able to access free rapid antigen tests. 18 million tests will be distributed through the state's testing clinics. Well, time for your final check of the weather now. Here's Sherry.